Mars train station, Mars, PA. For nearly 50 years, this train station was the central hub of the entire town of Mars, PA. While this small town is on the outskirts of the Pittsburgh metropolitan area, situated about 20 miles north of the city, it has acted as a secondary stop for commuters and visitors alike ever since its inception. This increased tenfold as this train station was constructed, which ultimately helped build and economically solidify the town. As business and travelers increased, the town saw an increase in growing legend and lore. With the increasing stories, there's no doubt that at least a portion of them are true, with the amount of townspeople experiencing odd phenomena all throughout the town, particularly converging on the old train station even after its untimely closure. The past. The small town of Mars was originally founded in 1873 with the first residential and combined gristmill construction by Samuel Parks. From that point until the mid-1890s, the town's population and economy was in flux. By 1897, the residents had pushed for stability, so the town was practically forced to expand with a major addition of the first iteration of the Mars train station. This helped bring the Pittsburgh and Western Railroad through the town of Mars. For 50 years, the town grew and attributed this major increase to that very train station. The residents seemed to get the stability they had hoped for, but in the mid-1920s, a freight train would derail and smash directly into the station. Even though this did cost the town a large sum of money, the station received the necessary repairs, but also upgrades which it desperately needed at this point in time. Following the station's facelift, the station drew in many locals and visitors alike during President Warren G. Harding's funeral train, which passed through the town and directly through the station. This time period marked the highest peak of the train station's popularity and functionality. As with any technology, time moved on, and the train station would be outdated and initially closed its doors in the mid-1960s. This only lasted about 10 years as the station was reopened in the late 1970s after sitting abandoned and empty. This second lifespan lasted until the early 1980s when it closed its doors and retired as a usable train station for the final time. With a humongous contribution through donations, the Mars Historical Society purchased the old station before it was too far into disrepair in the late 1990s. The restored station was officially opened as a repurposed and fully functional museum in the year 2000. The museum was featured on the History Channel in 2006 as an episode of Save Our History, which helped bolster interest and further donations to keep the museum up to date. As the museum grew, the campus added a short rail train in 2013. This railroad was constructed as a 1.5-inch scale model, with the locomotive as an exact version of the old switch-type diesel, but currently powered by a 6-horsepower engine. Along with this, the passenger cars are also 1.5-inch scale of the old cars. The current layout of the track is about 1,000 feet in length and encircles the campus of the museum. Visitors up to 14 at a time can enjoy approximately 10 minutes of a ride along the reconstructed train, passing through a tunnel and over the nearby Breakneck Creek. Guests can ride this iteration of the train any Friday from May through October from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and all ages are welcome. The only cost is a gift of a donation to the Historical Society and the museum. If you feel so inclined, the group has opened their online PayPal account for additional donations to anyone that feels like making a heartfelt gesture of contributing to the growth and stability of the Mars train station. This donation can be contributed at the link below in the comments. Paranormal experiences. Locals have passed around some very odd tales of the intriguing and macabre. The first dates all the way back to the very first time frame of operation, when a cat seemingly considered this station a second home. The only thing that was known about this cat is that she followed her owner to work at the station every day and grew accustomed to making herself comfortable in this location all throughout the day, only to follow her owner back home at day's end. She was given the nickname of Chessie in a callback to the train station main locomotive line. This occurred regularly for years until she just stopped the habits. She disappeared, that is, until the train station was under construction in the next century in the year 2000. As the station was being restored, it was necessary to physically move the old station from its former foundation. With the crews hard at work, there were minimal stoppages. However, as the foundation was revealed, the crew members had no choice but to stop the process as a mummified cat's remains were dug out. It's thought that this cat fell between some errant floorboards next to the train tracks, and it was trapped and ultimately died in this exact location. This made the small town's headlines, and the tale made its way around the entire town of Mars, so much so that they believed it was the old cat Chessie. Following the completion of the reconstruction and opening of the museum, construction workers completing their final work and visitors simply getting a feel for the refreshed building began to hear a cat's purring. As they mentioned this to the staff on site that there may be a stray cat, the staff member explained that there is no pet around and the doors and windows were all sealed with no way in or out. This cat simply could not exist inside the building. Those who experienced the strange occurrence were astounded, but no more than their peers who visually spotted a small cat rush past them. As time drew on, these tales just simply grew, and those volunteers and employees to the museum took no true notice of this, but simply blamed their otherworldly visitor, Chessie. This became much more of a reality, however, when there was some further construction taking place. Fresh sawdust laid on the floor prior to the crew cleaning it up, and everyone on site were completely in awe as they noticed a paw print very recognizable as a cat's print. Since this time, most employees find comfort in this long-lost cat's presence, whereas others feel sadness as they feel that the cat is still searching for its owner in the afterlife. This phantom cat is not the only supernatural phenomenon noted to wander the old train station. Another local legend tells of a homeless drifter who used to bounce around train cars, practically living at the old train station during the station's second lifespan in the 1970s. Unfortunately, these train cars were not well insulated, nor were they ever constructed as living quarters. This hobo was said to pass out one extremely cold winter night. Whether he was drunk and passed out or simply fell asleep while resting was never determined. What was finite, though, is that he did perish in a train car located in the Mars train station. While he may have passed on to the next plane, this man has been said to return to this place he considered home and ultimately his deathbed. A man in tattered clothing has been explained wandering the tracks aimlessly, but as witnesses follow him, typically in a concerned state, he disappears around the building. Some can see more details of this unnamed phantom, while others simply see a dark outline moving about the train tracks. Even though there have been no major tragedies, there are a few notable deaths tied directly to this old station. While these passings were truly unexpected, these paranormal phenomena seem to return to this location due to their life features and actions rather than their sad deaths. It can be no surprise that with how much this structure meant to the town and the residents of Mars, Pennsylvania, that there is extra energy expended here and their unofficial mascot returning to its eternal home inside the train station turned museum. Investigation. While the documentation of all of these tales is part of our goal, we always want to dig further and deeper. We were drawn to this historic train station back during our participation in the Mars Spooktacular, which seemed to open up some doors and give us the opportunity to explore the Mars train station. This allowed us to speak with locals and eventually guests to the building, all of whom shared their own experiences and stories with us. These stories all helped us open our minds to any ethereal experiences we may encounter. While we had really only anticipated making contact with Chessie, our minds were completely blown by some of the intelligent activities and communication we encountered in the museum. Each area we investigated seemed to hold a different atmosphere, and each changed with our time spent here. Communication was at a minimum at first, but a sense of anxiety was shared amongst the group, as if sharing a sense of curiosity with those who may still reside inside the museum in the afterlife. During the evening of Saturday, May 11, 2024, we had the opportunity to visit the Mars train station and spend some time inside this historic building with a member of the Mars Historical Society, Chris. Chris's hospitality was second to none and gave us a full tour and access to everything on the grounds except the caboose, which we hope to revisit someday. She shared her experiences and tales from both historical society members and visitors who have shared their own stories with her. Even though the building was not very big, there was plenty of opportunity to utilize our full complement of equipment to attempt to cover every angle we saw fit. After a tour and opportunity to speak with Chris and time to plan our investigation, we began roughly around 8:30 p.m. Even though we did not necessarily have any specific time frame, none of us expected the investigation to last until 1 a.m. the next morning. Our investigative team of 3 seemed to be a perfect fit for the space at hand. Even though she had to step away to take care of some business, Chris also actively joined us throughout the night. Our equipment list included 4 trail cameras set around the building, 2 stationary cameras which moved around with us, 4 K2 meters, 1 Phasma box, 1 SB7 spirit box, 1 REM pod, 1 Ovilus, 1 spirit light, 3 recorders, 1 EM pump, which we set up and let run the duration of the entire evening, 1 flare thermal camera, 3 motion-lit cat balls, obviously for Chessie, 2 LED flashlights, 1 SLS camera, and sense deprivation gear to appropriately pursue the Estes method. The energies perceived throughout the train station were ever-changing and began as we stepped foot in the building with a strong sense of anxiety. These sensations altered throughout the night, to include a sense of desperation and uneasiness in some areas, particularly the medical room. But the majority of these unquantifiable feelings were that of welcoming and curiosity. These senses also grew to physical interactions of being touched or tapped, which mainly occurred in the middle room with a feeling of hands being held, and Chessie's room with nudges and taps on backs and shoulders. Just outside the train station, across a pair of train tracks, is a refurbished old classic red caboose. This has been used for tours as a representation of what once was used and stored here. At the moment, there's quite a bit of work being done, mainly in the form of painting and upkeep. In order to access this representation of the past, visitors must ascend a staircase which leads to the rear entry of the train car. Peering through the windows, guests can observe the living quarters and some seating situated to the rear of the car. There are not any stories to tell of this area, but there is never a large amount of guests or employees here to really experience or document anything abnormal. While this train car was not unlocked and accessible to us, we did venture up here to get a look at the historical value and beauty of the caboose. While we made 2 separate ventures up here, the sensation was the same, at the exact same spot. We felt extremely uneasy, and some investigators did not even want to walk up the staircase. These feelings began at the base of the stairs and really persisted until we moved away from the train car and back across the train tracks. We hope we can spend some time here in the future, but for now, it's simply left as unexplainable notions. While our initial walkthrough and time spent settling in did not pull any particular investigator in any direction per se, we did feel the most curiosity emanating from the middle room. Upon entering the building, just to the right of the main separating wall is the old main entrance. This is where travelers would enter to purchase tickets, and employees of the station would distribute them. While this area has clearly transformed with the transition to a museum, the basic formation has remained the same, including an elongated wooden bench for passengers to await their train. Its current form showcases artifacts from the train station and its past iterations, including the Reconstruction period, as well as some other historical pieces and documentation from the town of Mars, PA. The supernatural occurrences noted here are unseen phantom footsteps and shadows appearing and disappearing on a whim at no particular time frame. Some guests here claim that these are attributed to old railroad workers, but others are more apt to believe this is the ever-active energy of the town cat. This has even reached the extent of some who enter the building to greet this phantom feline with a "Hi, Chessie." Our investigation began here, and we were initially under the interpretation that there was nothing intelligent here. But during our first attempt at communicating, we were touched on the hand. We also had a general overarching feeling that someone was sitting back watching us, curious or even slightly anxious. This is understandable with all the tools we brought, which would have definitely been new to whoever was here. As we pushed on, we captured some pretty incredible EVP, electronic voice phenomena, which were heard after we played our recorder back and dove into our review process extensively. These voices were not made through any speech devices. Rather, they emanated from nothingness, from the open air. These words and noises were all seemingly tied to the old train and its mainstay in this station. Incredibly, as we mentioned Chessie's name, there was a cry out of a cat as if it was scared. At this point, we had already prepared to move over into Chessie's room. On the far right of the building's main entrance is a large open room featuring even more locomotive and train station relics and artifacts from the area. In the center of the room is a small, old railroad car that was donated to the museum and is in spectacular condition. At the very end of the room is an extremely detailed and quite spectacular scaled display of the town and its layout. This was all designed and constructed by a founding member of the Historical Society who is no longer with us, but was certainly a predominant member of this small, tight-knit community. From the diorama circling around the train station equipment in the center, on the far side of the wall is the mummified remains of Chessie himself. This is quite a sight, and the sensation you get first looking at this macabre display can be slightly unsettling, but the true meaning of his presence is endearing and somewhat humbling. While there are some minimal tales of unusual or more commonly referenced unexplained activity occurring in this area, it seems that the majority of these phenomena stretch throughout the entire building. It's not known at this point, but it is very possible that these energies may also span across the entire property, including the caboose and the storage building across the parking lot. Regardless of those unknowns, the shadows of men and a smaller, fast-moving shadow, like that of a cat, have been spotted here. It's rumored that the hobo who perished in the ice-cold winter years back makes this location an eternal home, or at the least, a stop on his endless route. As we finished up our previous investigative session in the middle room, we collectively felt a change in the energy, as if we were finally being welcomed in here. Although we attempted some flashlights and EVP methods, the most active piece of equipment was the Phasma box. The paranormal phenomena stretched from train whistles.
Do you want me to turn the train on? Yeah.
To knocks.
Did you move? No, that was it.
But most useful was the verbal communication we had with this unidentified energy. While this energy guided us directly to the diorama and the model train display, they also owned the fault of the previously heard noises. The intelligence was confirmed for us as further knocking was paired up with our request to do so.
Started at 13, and mine said 11.
What was that? Not you?
As well as a reference of the two investigators standing and speaking with them and their names. This continued as this energy utilized the tool to ironically ask about the tool. We were asked to run the train and did so, but this may have been much too loud, and we were given a librarian-esque shush while we were told to make the train stop. This could have been directed toward the noise, or that this location was in fact a train stop. With all of this, we at first believed it was the former Historical Society member who built the display. However, we were seemingly told it wasn't, as they did not recognize the name.
Is this Bill?
Bill?
Following this, we did seem to pull an identity of someone, as we were told two iterations of the same name, Ben and Benjamin. It is unknown how he is related to the property, but almost immediately our focus shifted as we heard the name Schmidt, who was in fact the chiropractor who owned the skeleton display in the medical room. Before we closed up here and moved along to our next location, we found out that this energy here was aware of the mummified cat who is said to roam inside these walls, with both the name of the animal and its name, Chessie.
Sister's hat.
As we packed up to move along, we were hit with a sudden burst of heat, which occurred again as we moved across the building, as if we were being led to the left of the main entrance and the public spaces, through a doorway and around a sudden turn. This small room is filled with storage materials. Upon a closer look at these items, they are all medically linked. The most predominant feature in this small space looms over everything, from the equipment to the diagrams. It is a simple wood-framed box with see-through glass panels situated in the back corner behind the central chair. Not a lot is known about this box, but we were informed that it did hold a skeleton at one time by the chiropractor who utilized this display box, Dr. Schmidt. Not much has been talked about regarding this area, about any activity whatsoever. As a matter of fact, there is an employees-only sign and chain which blocks this area off to the public. We never set out to spend much time in this area. We simply wanted to poke our heads in and explore this space. Once we did, though, we felt a similar surge of heat that we felt right after our time in Chessie's room. Initially, we simply felt a bit anxious, as if we didn't want to turn our back to that corner where the skeletal box rests. We could not pinpoint any other objects in this room which gave us these sensations, so our focus turned toward this container and attempted an Estes method for this leg of the investigation, which includes one investigator being fully engulfed in sense deprivation. This area was the furthest thing from our minds when we began, but with all of the information gathered here, this medical room was the most active during our entire night. We were given everything from the identity of this individual, Dave, to his family, even though we were asked to turn our focus elsewhere.
Kids. One.
See.
Don't. Please.
The intelligence here was seemingly off the charts, as we captured full phrases referring to this energy and the skeletal container, and explaining that his former body was brought here not as a whole, but rather in many pieces.
I have come here, I think. Many pieces.
There was then an apparent description of how he passed away.
I couldn't breathe.
But to solidify this presence from earlier in the night, we were told that he made those prior knocking noises, followed by another loud knock. With all of this being very heavy and emotional, we were very grateful for his final responses, welcoming us back, and even commenting on the fact that this entire time frame was incredible.
I'll be around. You are. Always. Welcome. You done here. A lot. Incredible.
After we conducted our paranormal investigation of the Mars train station, we dove into all of the recorded and videotaped evidence. We were able to pair these up with our own personal experiences and sensations throughout the night to verify some of our sixth senses. We documented the tales which have been rumored to occur in this train station, and as we are able to compile our evidence to combine it with these stories, we are able to both verify and expand upon them. Thanks to these incredible phenomena we both experienced and captured, we have been able to conclude that the historic train station turned museum in the center of Mars, PA, holds high levels of unexplainable energies and a home to strange, otherworldly phenomena. These all lead us to believe that the remnant energy holds a strong tie to the property, but more so, the artifacts and relics displayed and stored here, leading them to be tied to this building or property for an eternity. While we experienced quite the array of activity, we have confidence that we encountered at least 2 intelligent energies and perhaps 1 or 2 residual energies which coalesce on this property. The intelligent communication we received appeared to stem from the railroad, with a man named or associated with Ben or Benjamin. This was apparent through the main middle room, reaching toward Chessie's room. The second energy seemed to be much stronger and much more willing to speak, as if he simply wanted to find out about his whereabouts. This intelligence was felt all throughout the building, but mainly back in the medical room, where we believe he is tied to the skeletal display box. From what we gathered, he was brought to this place after his passing, and already as human remains, he was seemingly on display as a skeleton, against his wishes. His name was Dave. The more residual sensations are that of the cat, Chessie, whose mummified remains are still encased in a glass box. This presence was seen in moving shadows and even in phantom feline cries. Others seem to be tied to the train station itself. While it's unknown whose energies these may be, it does appear as though it's more in relation to the former station employees still working beyond their lifetimes. The opportunity to spend an evening in the Mars train station left a significant impact on us, knowing that we were the first trusted paranormal investigative team to actively investigate this historic location. We cannot express how thankful we are for this chance to investigate here and learn more about the building and the town itself. Our thanks are fully extended to the Mars Historical Society and Chris, who gave us access to the property and even actively joined in with our time spent here. Our personal experiences and evidence were truly profound, and with this, we hope we can add to the history of the train station, the town, and even some of the artifacts remaining inside the Mars train station. The goal of investigating these historical sites is to truly help preserve history and the stories shared about it. If that simply means there's a tale we shared here that we can continue to document, that is enough for us. But some of our interactions included newly found pieces of history, like names and details, those of people who felt like this area was their true home, even at the onset of death, that were once lost to the sands of time.